Well, thank you everyone for joining us for today's important discussion. We will be starting the formal portion of the webinar momentarily, but I am here to just give you a few housekeeping notes. This webinar is being recorded. Following today's program, we will be sending a post-webinar survey. It will also have a link to watch or even forward or share the video with anyone you like afterwards. If anyone has technical issues or a general question during the program, please use the chat function in your toolbar. But if you have a question for a speaker, we do ask specifically that you use the Q&A tool. This will allow us to record questions. If for any reason we don't get to all the questions, we'll have a log of them and we can follow up and try to get them answered post-program for you. It is my pleasure now to welcome our guest host for today's program, Supervisor Dawn Saylor. Yolo County Supervisor Dawn Saylor represents District 2, including the cities of Davis and Winters, the campus of the University of California at Davis, and the farmland of southwestern Yolo County. Dawn was elected to the Board of Supervisors in June 2010 and began serving in January 2011 and currently serves as the board chairman. Dawn earlier served as mayor and city council member for the city of Davis from 2004 to 10 and a trustee for the Davis Joint Unified School District from 95 to 2003. Supervisor Saylor also sits, of course, on the Greater Sacramento Economic Council Board of Directors. Thank you for being here with us today, Supervisor Saylor.
Danielle, thank you very much for the introduction, and thank you for the Greater Sacramento Economic Council team for sponsoring and hosting this series of webinars. It's a very important time for us to stay together, keep informed, share information, and have this region's economy continue to be strong. You know, we have the industry sectors of food and agriculture, life sciences, health sciences, and advanced manufacturing. We connect throughout the world from this region. Those base industry sectors and financial services and government will keep us strong as we move through this challenging time. We've been in a stay-at-home order. Many of our businesses have been categorized as essential businesses or not essential businesses. We all know that every job is essential to the family and to the individual who works there. All work has dignity, and we need to find ways to safely reopen and move forward on a road to recovery. Yolo County is an amazing place, and it's my great honor to be a county supervisor here and to be a host of today's activity with all Yolo all-star cast. We have three leading visionaries who are part of the Greater Sacramento Board, whose businesses are represented here today. River City Bank, Clark Pacific, and Rayleigh's family of fine food stores. These are visionary leaders, and they have a story to tell. They've all been very busy in this past 60 days. We're gonna have an opportunity for each of them to speak to us. They'll have some questions and answers. And then we have a treat for you all, because we have representatives of the 4 chambers of commerce in Yolo County. We have Woodland, West Sacramento, Davis, and Winters chambers are all represented here, and we'll have an opportunity to get a short update for them. So I want to say one last thing as we start moving into the presentations from our experts and from our visionary leaders in our business community. These folks and their business operations, their partners, their colleagues, the people who work for them, participate in the life of our region and participate in making sure that those who suffer or those who are the least fortunate among us are tended to. So all 3 of these leaders do a lot more than watch their own bottom line. They care for the people, they care for the planet, and it's a great pleasure for me to be participating with them. Our first speaker is Don Clark. Don and his brother Bob are the 2nd generation owners and co-presidents of Clark Pacific. It's a regionally based design build precast construction company with a profile that goes far beyond their West Sacramento roots and their woodland kind of operation. The company's notable recent projects include the 49ers Stadium, the new Apple headquarters building, and the new Kings Golden One Arena in Sacramento. And Don I'm delighted to be a colleague with Don Clark on the Greater Sacramento Economic Council Board of Directors. So Mr. Clark, take it away. Did we lose Don?
Sorry, I got started without unmuting.
I'm sure it was a good story.
It was. I was halfway done. So, Don, thank you. Yeah, I'm very happy to be part of this panel today. Very interesting times for all of us. And I'm very excited that we're all taking steps now to reopen the businesses and get our economy going again. And I can't wait to get a haircut and go out to dinner. Clark Pacific has been headquartered in Yolo County for over 55 years. We design, we fabricate, we install commercial buildings all throughout California and up into the Northwest. Our firm was deemed an essential business, and we were able to continue operating during these last 7 or 8 weeks. But it's not as easy as it sounds. Being that the risks of COVID-19 are not going away anytime soon, I thought I would share some of our journey in developing safe working protocols that have worked for us. When this first came out, we had over a 3-day period, we had over 200 of our engineers and administrative team had to figure out how to effectively work from home. A real challenge. I think a year ago, we wouldn't have been able to do it nearly as effectively, but with Microsoft Teams and different lean methods, it seems like it's worked reasonably well for us. To continue operating our fabrication facilities, we formed a task force that met daily and included my brother and I and our top managers. Our group was responsible for developing and implementing our work safety protocols. And part of that was trying to keep up with the constantly changing CDC guidelines, working with Yolo County, working with our unions, as well as working with other firms that we partner with to continue to gather new information on how to stay safe. So our group developed what we call our business continuity plan, which I'm going to share with you, Don, after this, and happy to, if you'd like to post it to your website. It's a continuously evolving plan that follows all best practices. Currently, our program includes, when our workers, all of us, when we show up to our Woodland facility, they're stopped, at the beginning, temperature checks and questions are asked about their health. We now have, from the beginning, created full-time people that were cleaning and disinfecting around the facility. We now have face mask protocols that are required of everyone working in the plant. It's been very effective. We've been very comfortable. We have not had one incident yet. Another key item of our program was communication. It's not only important that we are safe, but people have to feel safe, and we try to keep everybody involved with our progress as we went. We tried to over communicate. Bob and I sent out daily COVID-19 updates, as well as initially it was once a week. Now it's about every other week that we conduct a live internal seminar or webinar, for our teams to let them know, not only what's happening on the COVID, but also what's happening with our projects and what projects were getting put on hold or what new projects we're picking up. Currently, we're working on a plan to, how to bring our office workers back, when that's allowed. This includes one of the initial steps we're doing is looking at all of our office layouts and doing a COVID-19 review of the office layouts and looking for areas that where the offices are set up in such a way that that lights just went off, excuse me there. you're looking at areas where our desks may be too close to each other, or you may have too many people in one area that, so before they come back, we're going to rearrange the furniture. We're looking at and making sure we got a protocol for people that are not comfortable coming back or have particular health issues, that they continue to work from home. Looking in our kitchen area, that you provide the small kind of donut napkins so that they can open refrigerators or microwaves and feel comfortable with it, as well as increasing our cleaning protocol, as well as making sure everybody enters through the same area and doing temperature checks. So we're excited to hopefully in the next little bit to start getting people back. I think the overall message, though, and the good news is that I think we've been able to do this in not only a safe manner, but something that's worked effectively for us. That we are able to function, and we've lost some productivity, but overall, I think it's been very successful, and we'll continue to adjust to it. As a company, we feel very fortunate that we've been able to stay open. Our people feel fortunate that they've been able to keep their jobs during this time frame. And then as a company, we gave back, to the community by, and one of the ways is that we've helped sponsor the Yolo Delivers Hope program. We're very proud of that. That's it's providing over 4,800 healthy chef-prepared meals from 12 restaurants and from our Woodland area. And partnered with the Woodland Dinners on Main and the Center for Land-Based Learning. So, yes, Supervisor, one of the things you made a comment on was kind of our economic outlook and what we see going forward. We do work all over the state, as well as up in Oregon and Washington, in many different business sectors. So as you can imagine, it's not real clear what the outlook is. We had a number of jobs that were put on hold during this. But overall, I'm very optimistic. The majority of those jobs, we believe, are going to come off hold in the next 2 weeks to 2 months. We got a couple that got delayed at least until next year, but we still feel optimistic about it. I think for this year, we're probably going to be down about 20% of volume, which isn't too bad considering. But next year, I think a lot of that volume is going to be made up. And then we may have a very, very strong year, assuming that this economy gets back going soon. Future sales were, again, I don't think we've slowed down as much as we thought we would during this. Our sales team has actually been calling from home and staying engaged. We're seeing the high-rise housing market in the Bay Area. We've actually picked up 2 or 3 30-story buildings that we're doing the skins on, over the last 3 weeks. Silicon Valley's Google has basically stopped 2 or 3 of their main programs as they reassess, what is the future office building going to look like? Is it going to change? And I think they've also slowed down their hiring a bit. But we believe those are all going to get going again, but those are the ones that have delayed probably 6 months or so. Our supply chain on the positive side is actually been able to perform for us during this period. We've had to reach out a little bit further than normal. We've had to go a little international on a few products, but overall, we've been able to, our supporting staff has come through for us on that. So,
well, Don, thank you so much. And I really appreciate the way you're describing the return to work, your existing practices that you've been able to continue through as an essential manufacturing business. But as you're bringing people back in, you're being so mindful that the virus is still with us, and it's not going to be business as usual. It's going to be business in a new and safer way to protect the workers. And I appreciate all you have done in our county for so long, and this time is just cementing that ongoing presence and contribution. So thank you, and thanks to the Clark Pacific team.
Thank you, Don.
And we have Chelsea Miner here with Raley's Family of Fine Stores. Chelsea is the Corporate Director of Public Affairs for Raley's. And I think all of you know that Raley's is a very innovative, family-owned regional grocery chain operating in Northern California and Nevada. She's a spokesperson for the organization. She develops and executes the company's public affairs and brand reputation. And she manages Raley's government relations and external partnerships. Grocery stores like Raley's have become the critical community resource, and for many of us, the only place we go is it's the only way to get out. And we need to understand that the people who work there are performing a very important public service for us all. Raley's has acted swiftly to hire employees, implement new procedures to help the community maintain access to groceries with limited interruption. I'm excited to hear what Chelsea has to say today, and just know that Raley's is a big part of our region's success.
Thank you, Don, for that kind introduction. And you're right, we take a lot of pride in being this central place now that we can all gather and at least still have some community interactions while, majority, of course, of us are spending our time at home. So as an essential business, we have remained open through this entire pandemic, and, continue to remain committed to that, and to make sure that the supply chain for food and essential items have been secured and accessible to all, recognizing, we have seniors who, have been, encouraged to stay home. How do we get access to food and those items to those individuals? We've made I would call it 40.
Just a second. If you have your phone active, it would be great if you mute it, because I can't hear, not you, Chelsea, but there's some other folks on the line. If you're not speaking, please mute. Thank you. Sorry, Chelsea.
No problem. So we've made about, I would call it 40 plus different operational changes through this time frame. And especially early on, I remember us recalling of things that we said we wouldn't do, maybe on Monday, and by Friday we had made fluctuations to our business to adjust those types of operations. And I think we've got some lessons learned. But to your point, Don, this is going to become the new normal. And my hope today is to give some security around the food supply chain, and then also give some recommendations, especially to retail, who's thinking about this next phase, given the governor's announcement at 12 o'clock today around reopening as early tomorrow. What are some of those things that you can do to prepare yourself? Whether that just be curbside pickup or what the future evolution looks like in the coming weeks, because there's, I think, a lot of groundwork that needs to be done. So as it relates specific to the food chain and supply chain, we are very lucky in the United States that we have a very sophisticated food system. But specifically, we've seen, especially in this situation, the value of our local supply chain. We talk often about our farmers and the importance that agriculture plays in the Sacramento region, and that has been not only tried but tested during this time frame. And if you think about your last 6 to 8 weeks in the grocery store and the plentiful options that you've had, especially specific in our produce department, and that is because of our local suppliers. That is because of those entities who are working tirelessly in the fields to supply not only the world, but specifically our Sacramento region. And so with that, we've made some adjustments, which has been really exciting to do, where maybe a farmer had a product that they were giving to a restaurant that now they were giving to Raley's. And so taking on new SKUs and new products and being innovative in that sense has been both impressive on the farmer's perspective, as well as just taking it in from a retail. We expect things like toilet paper to catch up. So for those on the phone, I know that's always a big question when I chat with folks. We actually expect everything from a paper products perspective to come back within the next 4 to 6 weeks. We're already starting to see that, but that was something, we did not anticipate. So bear with us and know that more is coming. And then of course, the biggest thing on people's minds are meat, given both President Trump and some other large distributors in the East Coast comments around meat shortages. We do not expect a shortage, both from our chain and some of our peers. We are working with our producers to ensure that that supply chain is coming. We ask customers, of course, not to overpurchase, but be open to different varietals. Realize that you may not get the same cut that you got several weeks ago, that the producers are making those adjustments in processors, and to be a little bit more flexible. Try something that may have a bone in or a different meat varietal, and you will have plenty of meat within the grocery store every time you go in for a visit. Shifting gears to this kind of thought around new form of retail, what the new normal is. Some thoughts that I have for those businesses that are on the phone and how you can prepare. I think first and foremost, it's securing your PPE. So your masks, your gloves, cleaning solutions and supplies, hand sanitizer for your guests when they arrive, again, whether they're just picking up. It's those level, I think, of reminders from a cleanliness perspective that are important. And to be honest, your customers are going to look to you for those things. They're going to expect these things. The businesses that they've been going to, like grocery, have those things today. And so the more that you can do the work now to secure those items, recognizing the demand, I think that will set you up for great success. Invest in the infrastructure. So if you go to the grocery store today, you see markers on our floors recommending social distancing. You see a protective shield at the customer service counter. How do you think about those types of things? How do you think about your space and the flow and where things maybe need to move? You know, Don brought up a really great point in terms of where people sit in proximity to each other. And then thinking through your workforce. What does sick leave look like for somebody who's 65 and older? Do they come back to the retail space or do they not? What does it look like for those of our employees that don't have childcare? So those that are coming kind of back on, we recognize that there's different forms of leave and how you handle each of those will be very different. So just thinking ahead of all those different scenarios and planning and being very upfront with your team members on what the opportunities are that exist in terms of leave or actually coming back physically into the space. We've actually allocated hand washing stations in the front portions of our stores so that you don't have to go all the way back to maybe the restroom. Not all of our stores are, you know, configured the same way. So how do you think about breaking for sanitation, breaking for cleaning countertops, hard surfaces, and for allowing hand washing and those types of things? And then, you know, we've implemented a cleaning marshal, somebody who their number one job is to make sure that all of these new procedures are going and being practiced. And so who can maybe be the leader within your organization or in a given shift to start to put some of these practices into place. And then lastly, I think I'll end with, you know, how do you regularly communicate with your customers? What is the new normal within your facility? What can they expect? What are your requests of them? Of course, here in Yolo County, we have the mask, you know, requirement. In Sacramento County, it's not. So how will your business be implementing those based on the county ordinances and just being as upfront and forthcoming, I think, as possible. And then my other recommendation for those that are on the phone, I will take off my Rayleigh's hat and put on my chair of the West Sacramento Chamber. And I think it's think about your community and how you're going to connect with folks in the coming weeks and the resources and tools that you'll need. And if you're not a member of any of the chambers in our region, I highly recommend that you consider it, both for support to meet and chat with your peers that are dealing with the same situations you are and how you can support each other, but then on the support and resources side and the integration that the chambers have that, you know, are woven into our communities as it relates to those resources that you're going to need here in the coming weeks. So with that, I'll kick it back to you, Don.
I'm going to unmute myself so I can thank you again, Chelsea, for that wonderful presentation. You hit a lot of important points for businesses that are about to start up. Just a reminder, if you are listening and you'd like to ask a question, one good way to do it is to enter it in the chat line or in the Q&A portion of the Zoom screen so that we can get to some of those answers either during the presentation or after. Our next presenter is Steve Fleming. Steve is a proud Yolo County resident. He's president and chief executive officer of River City Bank, a community bank. It's the largest and fastest growing bank based in Sacramento. He has 40 years of banking experience, including over 20 years with the Bank of America in Sacramento and in London, England. Steve is very involved in the life of our community. He's a participant in a variety of charitable activities, including the Kelly Foundation, the sixth largest foundation in the Sacramento region. He's also on the board of the Greater Sacramento Economic Council and the Sacramento chapter of Lambda Alpha and the Honorary Society for the Advancement of Land Economics. So Steve, thank you very much. The financial services sector is involved in all of the aspects of our regional economy and the lives of the people who live here. We'd really like to hear what your take on this is. And you also have been sponsoring these economic forecast sessions for a number of years, taking a look at
Yeah.
where we're going. So Steve, thank you for being with us.
Yeah, thank you, Don. And before I get into my comments, I just want to thank and acknowledge you for your many years of public service, including the last 10 as our county supervisor. Your incredible work, particularly with respect to supporting children and those suffering from food insecurity, is really represented a great role model, and is something that I just wanted to take a minute to acknowledge that, because you probably don't get enough thanks for what you do. Okay, so let me just start with the bank. Like the other speakers, our business is an essential service. Financial services is critical for a functioning society. So we have had to stay open. In a way that's been, fortunate. I think Don mentioned, we're lucky, those of us that have been staying open and keeping busy with our work. Most of our employees, those working at our corporate office, have been working remotely over the last couple months. We put in place new systems last year, and I would say I'm pleasantly surprised at the level of productivity with the folks working from home. That's been a learning lesson, something that I think will change the way businesses, certainly our business, operates going forward. I think there'll be more flexibility around allowing people to work from home, given what we've experienced with their productivity through this. Our overriding goal in remaining open is to ensure the safety of our employees and of our customers. So working from home obviously achieves that to a large extent. But we do have branches that we operate, retail branches, and those have remained open. And the folks who work in those branches really deserve a lot of credit, because they're on the front line and they've got people walking in, strangers, in some cases, people they've never met before walking in, and that can be a scary experience. So we've taken some steps to protect them and protect our customers in the process, including reducing our banking hours from 10 to 3, which ironically enough is what banks used to be open for when I started 40 years ago. So we're going back in time. So 10 to 3, and we put up plexiglass at the teller stations to give them some protection there. We're of course practicing social distancing, limiting the number of people that can come into the branches. And I don't want to jinx anything, but at least up to this point, none of our employees, nor are we aware of any of our customers, have caught the virus. So hopefully it will, knock on wood, it will stay that way. We've been, as you may have heard, this Paycheck Protection Program, the PPP loan program, has kept us incredibly busy since March 27th, when the President signed the CARES Act into law. And they gave us all a week to get ready and start processing applications. And it's been just an incredible experience. We've had employees, many employees, literally for a month period, working 17-hour days, 7 days a week. I mean, it's just been like nothing I've ever experienced in my banking career. And I'm just so proud of the way they stepped up to the challenge. Under pretty intense environment where you've got borrowers who are understandably very anxious because this program's got a lot of really good things about it, but one of the things that wasn't really good was that they said we're going to set aside $340 billion on a first-come, first-served basis, and we're probably going to forgive most of that money, but it's not going to be enough for all of you. But good luck. And of course, that created a tremendous amount of anxiety with small businesses, many of whom need the money desperately just to stay afloat. And they're in this race to get their application in. And that, of course, gets passed on to the bankers who are processing it. And again, I'm really proud of our team and in the way that they handled that. And it's looking a lot better at this point in terms of those folks who've applied getting their money. I'm happy that all of our applicants have received funding at this point. So we feel real good about that. The current economy, I'll just have a couple words on that and say that as I'm sure everybody knows intuitively, some businesses are doing a lot better than others. At one end of the spectrum, you've got the hospitality sector, you've got the shops. They're closed down. There's no demand for the service, and an inability because of the shelter in place to even have customers come in and receive their services. So those guys are suffering the most. And the other end of the spectrum, you've got folks like Rayleigh's that have had an increase in demand, and of course that brings its own challenges too. So they're extremely busy, I'm sure, as Chelsea would acknowledge. But you've got food and agriculture, which I think in general is doing better than most. So you've got quite a spectrum, and of course one of the things that we're all very keen to find out is how the university does here in Davis with the fall quarter coming up, and how that's gonna work, because Davis, the campus is such a big part of our economy locally. The last thing I want to say is we're really, and I'll brag a little bit because we're really proud of the Kelly Foundation, and we did make a decision about 2 weeks ago to make some large grants to 4 food banks. We decided that it's always hard with a foundation to know how to allocate the money, but we just felt that at this time giving the money to the food banks made a lot of sense. So we made $220,000 in grants to 4 food banks, including $75,000 to the Yolo food bank. And those guys, by the way, do a fantastic job. They got this great new facility, and we should give them all the support that we can, because the demand for their services has grown fast, and at the same time the supply has been constrained, and their supply of workers has been constrained because they have a lot of elderly workers who understandably are sheltering in place. So it's been a perfect storm for the food banks, and we are proud to have helped a little bit there.
Well, I think that message of giving back has come through with all 3 of you. So what a wonderful set of presentations. We do have some questions that are coming up, but these key industries that you represent, manufacturing, construction, food and agriculture, and banking, are going to be a part of the recovery for us. These are critical industries. They're strong in our region, and I really appreciate your time with us. And Danielle, I think you might have some questions to bring to our panel.
Good afternoon. I sure do. And as we kick this off, I would definitely encourage all of our 50 or so participants to please submit anything in that Q&A. I'm sure Barry's got some great questions that he wants to toss out there. So there's I love to challenge my boss when he's there plugging in, but he's always got great questions. So I will take the first one though here that was submitted. It says, I am reading that many organizations have been surprised how successful a working from home environment has been, which is causing companies to reevaluate long-term office environments. Are any of the businesses represented in today's panel looking at making a work from home environment a permanent option for any of your staff? And maybe we could start with Don, because he looks like he's got some thoughts there, and then maybe go to Steve and then Chelsea on thoughts if anyone wants to throw in.
Well, as Steve said, we also were surprised at how well it's been working, but the you can't beat face to face for a lot of what we do, and so we are going to be loosening our rules. We haven't decided, or not our rules, but just our overall program, and we have learned a lot as an organization that this isn't so bad. It's especially for our long commuters. This is going to be something that I think we're going to put into our program. We just haven't finalized what that's going to be yet.
Yeah.
So,
Go ahead, Steve.
go ahead. No, go ahead, Danielle.
So I would add that we're very similar. I think there were many positions and roles that, you know, you didn't think could be remote, that we were all forced to try to do remote, specifically at our support center. But, you know, I think every business should decide what's on their own. I've chatted with some businesses most recently that I think were worried how their team members would respond, and have found that their team members have appreciated it and are going 100% remote long term. So I think it really depends on the size, scale, and you know, the type of industry in which you work in, if your team members and so forth can get on board.
I'll add to that, Danielle, if I may. You know, we have found, you know, I made 2,000, I know because we tracked this, we made 2,133 face-to-face presentations in the Bay Area. And what we have found out is they're very amenable to a Zoom call. Now, probably now, hopefully into the future. So we're finding our outreach to businesses. By the way, we've had, I think, 5 businesses commit to the Sacramento region during the pandemic. 1 healthcare, 100,000 square feet, 4 digital companies. Now the healthcare company's coming out of Portland and cannot come here until the pandemic is lifted. But, you know, the digital companies are growing like crazy, 1,100% job growth in digital sector during the pandemic, probably accelerated by this. So we've had a tremendous response to outreach. We think we'll be building industry consortiums and clusters with an online tool. So on one hand, we've actually found this, you know, being required to only use an online tool, we found the areas where it really benefits us and continue to maintain that, and probably give people a chance to telecommute from home that work on it if Danielle, since she's the boss, decides that's okay. One of the things we have found a difficult time, there's a lot lost in collaboration and a lot lost in strategic planning. So what we've done is we have 3 of us in the office today practicing social distancing, sitting 8 to 12 feet apart. We wear surgical gloves and masks at all time when we go outside. And if we do that, we'll be very safe. We found being able to work on a whiteboard with 3 of us in a room is so much more efficient and functionable than trying to do that online digitally. But we had a national site selection conference online reviewing our community. I think we had 8 national leaders. So we think our outreach is going to be more efficient coming out of this than it was before, and which is going to allow us to do more retention and expansion. But when it comes to collaborating, designing economic models, you know, concept building, we have found we've got to be in the room together to be effective.
Steve, what are you seeing?
Yeah, so I think this is a great topic, and I think everybody's thoughts are evolving a little bit day by day, and it's somewhat nuanced in that I think it depends to a certain extent on the attitudes of your employees. You know, some employees I think are anxious to get back in the office. They miss the office environment. Maybe they want to have less time in the home environment. But either way, they want to get back in that office. And then you have other employees who it's going to be harder for them to come back, maybe because they have small children. Maybe the schools aren't open, so you know there's an issue there. And also, maybe they have long commutes and they've always wanted to work from home. And this has been great for them, and they've enjoyed it. And we'll look to see if we can accommodate them going forward. I think it'll depend also in part on the roles that they perform. Some roles are more easily performed remotely, and others, I think it's really important that you have, face-to-face interaction. So I don't see us, even when the order is removed and people can come back into the office, I wouldn't expect us to rush to require people to come back in. I think we're going to take it very slowly. And part of the reason for that is that the bank's really functioning at such a high level as it is. There is no reason to rush, and particularly if you have people that are still anxious and fearful, and there are definitely some folks who are going to fall into that category. There's no reason to push them into a uncomfortable situation. At least that's our opinion.
All right. Thank you very much. It's been interesting to say the least. It took us about a good week to figure out how to communicate, but getting a sense of normalcy in the abnormal has started to occur a little bit. I know our team at least started doing daily check-in calls in the morning and then daily check-out calls at the end of the day to kind of have that feeling of the start and end. But we've been able to back off on that a little bit because everybody has a very clear understanding of their deliverables now. So it's wild times. We do have one other question that's been submitted that Chelsea, I believe you touched on already, but just to make sure it got recognized, is there a long-term threat to the food supply? Is meat and produce safe? And how can we be assured of that?
Yeah, so two thoughts on that. First and foremost is the food is safe. We've, as we've gone and learned more and more about this virus, it's been affirmed from the federal kind of counterparts that this is not a foodborne illness. This is not something that you're going to see like E. coli or anything of that nature that's spread in food. And especially for products that you're cooking, you should have no fear, right? Are we recommending that you wipe off packages and those types of things, not knowing who touched it? 100%. But those, that would be the same as if you went to another retail establishment. As it relates to just the overall food supply in terms of, can we expect things to be as normal as possible? Yes, as long as people continue to monitor their purchasing and not over purchasing for more than a week or two for their families. And what you are seeing that I can share with you, which reassures that specifically, is what you're seeing is producers developing products, maybe 1 or 2 varieties and not 10 varieties. So when you go to the pasta aisle and you would have had fettuccine shells, spirals, angel hair pasta, etc., you may only have 2 options. So the way that they're speeding up production is making sure that they have a limited scope of number of products. So prepare for those types of variations in store, but besides that, we're very confident that things will continue to move forward.
Excellent, excellent. Well, we have covered the submitted questions, and Supervisor, I'd love to hand it back to you to see if any of the 3 panelists had anything else that they wanted to make sure we heard. But then I know we were going to move on to just some brief comments from all of our chamber CEO guests today. Wanted to make sure you had enough time for that. So, Rain, yours again.
Thank you very much, Danielle. Appreciate the questions that came in. So friends on the panel, do you have a minute of any closing that you'd like to make? Any closing thoughts for a minute, Steve?
Yeah, and I'll preface this by saying that, at our business outlook event, the bank's signature event that we had in early February, I think I told everybody that I was really comfortable with the economy and it was pretty smooth sailing for 2020. So you can take my comments for what they're worth. And also, as it relates to public health, I struggled with high school science, so you can also factor that into my comments. But we're clearly learning as we go, and they say history may not repeat itself, but it rhymes. But I do think we're starting to see the outlines of what it's going to look like for the recovery phase. And my best guess at that is that it's going to be not a rapid, rubber band snap back to where we were before. It's going to be fairly slow. We've seen in places like Sweden now where they've had relaxed restrictions around shelter in place, but people are still fearful. And so they're not going to the shops and they're not traveling the way they were, even though they're allowed to. They're choosing not to do it. So I think travel, hospitality, those entertainment, large gatherings, all of that's going to be really slow to come back. But other sectors will come back quicker. But I think until we have a vaccine or herd immunity, that it's going to be it's going to take a while for our economy to look like it did before the downturn.
Thank you, Chelsea. 1 minute.
Yeah, I think the biggest takeaway is all of us here are here to support. So if you want to reach out and talk about particular issues we've dealt with, I am more than willing to talk you through how we made shields and how we made certain procedures. And then the other is, again, think about those resources, think about how we can support each other, how you can shop local, how you can support those businesses as they start to come out of this so that we can kind of all rise together.
Excellent. Don?
Just to repeat what I think Steve said, is that COVID's going to be with us for a while longer. And we have to take the precaution. We need to set up our businesses to function within this, and I believe we can. You know, we can reopen this economy. It's going to open slower, but there's a way to do this and keep us all safe and get the economy moving again. So I'm very optimistic of us getting through this over the next 6 months.
Wow, thank you. Very strong messages from all three of you. I think it's pretty clear that one of our greatest assets in this region is our people, and we've just seen some of that displayed. So we have four representatives of our chambers of commerce in Davis, Winters, West Sacramento, and Woodland. So they're displayed on the screen. It's a delight to see these folks. They make a difference for businesses and their communities every day. So Joe D'Annunzio from Davis, Sue Moalim from Winters, Denise Domke from West Sacramento, and Christy Wright. If you could just spend a minute or two with the highlights of what's happening in your chamber, and what's the big business issues that you're dealing with, and how are your members doing?
Sure, Supervisor Saylor, I'll go first. You're probably the first person this week to describe me as delightful, so thanks for that. I'll take it.
Yeah, give me the $5 later.
Well, it's gone up. You know, for my 90 seconds, I wanted to share just a couple of key thoughts. First of all, like all of our Yolo County sister communities in Davis, we've seen significant challenges for our businesses, especially for the smaller enterprises. We just completed in the last day a survey of 125 of our chamber members, and the impact's staggering. 75% of them report reduced income, and 2/3 of those say it's significant. More than 40% of them have reduced or eliminated significant staff. And 70% of them have applied for some form of federal or state funding or assistance. That said, we're very encouraged by the response of our community. Davis residents have come out in active support of the businesses. And I think for our business owners, that has been important, not just financially, but emotionally as well. And as we move forward, echoing what the panelists said, it's vital that we find safe and appropriate ways for our businesses to open back up and provide these businesses with the needed guidance on how to properly manage their operations so they and their customers stay safe. We also see the need for continued local, state, and federal assistance, including looking for ways to reduce taxes and fees in addition to the fiscal stimuli. And then finally, ending on a little bit of an up note and a plug for our chamber. You know, as you know, every May we have a 10,000 person strong Celebrate Davis event in Community Park. You know, we've postponed that till October, but we're going to meet as a virtual group at the end of this month and celebrate some of the good things that are happening in the community, continue to promote businesses, and we look forward to having you join us. Thanks very much, Supervisor Saylor.
Sue? Sue, are you there?
Thanks, Don.
There you are.
There I am. Well, for the Winters Chamber, I think from the beginning, our focus has been on communication and inclusion. We're a really small community, and in times like this, it's even more important that we work together. In the beginning, getting great information out to our members was, of course, the priority. But during that, businesses were adjusting and just trying to figure things out. So reaching out to each one of our members directly was important to us. We're small enough we can do that. We also reached out to every business in town as well as nonprofits, whether they were members or not. I think that gave us a better picture of what specific challenges our businesses were facing and who is still working at close to full capacity and what information and support is most important to our businesses as a whole. So we are currently working on getting a united message together. We attract a large amount of visitors and are seeing those numbers grow by the day, but we need to make sure our businesses have that unified message. So we want to let people know how we're doing business, what we are doing to ensure our customer safety, and what kinds of precautions we were asking the public to take in order to help in our efforts. Sorry about that. Like everywhere, our business community and the general population are going through a lot of change right now. We have a distillery in town that is supplying hand sanitizer to businesses and residents. And that's just one example of how businesses are not just trying to reinvent how they are doing business, but creating new experiences for their customers. And I think lastly, what I find really incredible about this whole experience is how much we've come together while we've been social distancing. We are all meeting new people that we may not have had an opportunity to meet before. We're building teams and working alongside people that we've only met virtually. And I think in the end, that just makes our chamber and our community and our cities that much stronger. So I want to thank everybody for putting this on today too. I want to make sure I mention that.
Thank you so much, Sue. Denise.
Thank you, Supervisor Saylor. And thanks to the Greater Sacramento Economic Council for your continued support of local chambers and the work that we do in the community and in the business community. You know, in West Sacramento, a key to supporting our local economy is a collaboration between the city of West Sacramento and the chamber. It's been a long, successful relationship. And with the support of the city manager's office, and a shout out to Diane Richards in the Economic Development Department, within 48 hours of the shelter in place order, the chamber team and the team in economic development were in a Zoom meeting, and we began to develop a strategy for coordinated outreach in our business community, data-driven, so that we could measure our successes, and timeline-driven at 30, 60, and 90 days. As a result, we have held 8 industry-specific and open forum power hours. And because of the size of our community and our chamber, it's enabled us to quickly respond, to provide resources as they're needed, and to be able to bring responses and support to, you know, a bigger community. In West Sacramento, the hope as we get ready to restart this economy carefully, intentionally, with an eye towards not only news at the state level related to deficits and awareness at a local level of how that will impact us. We are, you know, working and experience in unfortunately previous situations not that dissimilar. We're working together to try to foster a restart to our economy and hope, but to base that hope on a combined wisdom to bring benefit to the community. So appreciate this opportunity. Thanks for including us. Yolo County is a special place, and we're special because our communities are special and we know our communities. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Denise. Thank you, Denise. Christy, are you still?
Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, great. Okay. Well, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to update everyone on Woodland. Our chamber has also been conducting weekly Zoom outreach discussions with our businesses. It entails the City of Woodland Mayor Pro Tem Tom Stallard and Interim City Manager Ken Hyatt and their Economic Development Director joining us in conversations with our President, our First Vice President, and the Chamber's Economic Development Liaison, Cynthia. And these have proven to be great calls. We're hearing directly from the business owners that what they are experiencing with this COVID-19 since this shelter in place. And we're seeing several issues that they have in common. 30% seems to be the number repeatedly identified by essential businesses as the reduction in client and customer service that they are experiencing. And then we also did a survey by email that indicates that 78% of our local businesses are seeing weekly revenue being decreased. And then many of our businesses were frustrated that they could not apply for the PPP loan, that funding went so fast. And on top of that, their financial institutions could not manage the increase in the application and process. So they were overwhelmed and had to turn their customers away. But that was a while ago. And now some of the people applying are actually seeing the dollars coming in. So we're happy about that. Thirdly, now that businesses are looking to reopen, our employers are saying that they can't compete with the unemployment benefits. So their employees are a little reluctant to come back. And one of our employment agencies is going to host a drive-through job fair because he can secure some candidates to come to work. I wanted to mention I've been involved with the United Chambers group. It's the 6-county region and a lot of chambers. We've been getting together and working on a return to work toolbox that the chambers will be rolling out soon. And I think it's going to help businesses, small businesses in particular, that aren't used to having to do what needs to be done in terms of communication with customers and employees and the safety guidelines and with everything that's going on. So keep your eyes open for that to come out, and I think it's going to be very helpful. I want to thank everyone for this program today. It's been great, and let's all open responsibly.
I think that's a wonderful tone. Thank you to the chamber representatives for your ongoing connection throughout our communities and our county. We will be opening activities. There's a gradual roadmap to recovery in Yolo County that mirrors what the state is doing. We are not doing everything all at once. We are asking everyone to be thoughtful about their plans for reopening and to spend the time that we have now to prepare for safe practices that we haven't had in place previously because we didn't need them. Now is the time to do that preparation as we get ready, and we'll have some things opening up even tomorrow with some of the curbside retail and so on. I'm sorry, Barry, we have only left you a few minutes at the end, but we're very, very proud of the work that Greater Sacramento is doing for our region and under the leadership of Barry Broom, the president and CEO. So Barry, please bring us home.
Yep, thank you. And thank you, Don, and thank everyone. So obviously a lot of sobering news, but I want to give some positive news as well. You know, we have 14 science-based enterprises looking in Yolo County right now for space. I was on the phone with Aggie Square this morning. 28 companies are committed. The regents will approve that in November. And in January, they will break ground on a $1 billion project in the urban core. What we need to make sure we're doing is the strength of that institution is still in Davis, not in Sacramento. And if you can get 28 world-class companies and $1 billion in the Sacramento market, which is largely the medical school and healthcare system, think what happens when we more meaningfully engage the #1 veterinarian school in the world, the #1 food and agricultural school in the world, and all the other incredible sustainability achievements. So one of the other commitments that we've gotten on Mace Road is a net zero carbon-free development strategy and a commitment to 100% renewable energy. And so I know there's a lot of concerns in Davis about balancing on sustainability. So Joe and others, I'm going to take your cue from it because I'm your regional partner. But that Mace Road project at 100% solar energy with a net zero carbon footprint, I hope can create a little bit more excitement because those investment and jobs are going to be part of sustaining our economy in our future. So we've still been working hard. Our communities are going through approvals. You know, we've kept the very small investment numbers for our communities. So in the last 5 years, our total local government investment has been $4.5 million. Our communities have gotten all of our services plus $76 million back. The reason we're able to do that is because Chelsea and Steve and Mike Teal and all these CEOs have invested in 82% of the budget. And when our communities work together, they feel like that's a good investment. So having all of us working together will keep that stature and capacity to help our communities through this. I think it's going to be a tough 6 to 12 months, but I do think we're going to rise and shine. And I feel like, you know, this is kind of the transformation we've been waiting to do, Supervisor Saylor, where, you know, not only do we grow a better economy, but we do that in a sustainable way with regard to the environment, with respect to climate change, And we do that digitally in an equitable way because we're not going to leave people behind. So I appreciate everyone's support and confidence in working together. We're here to help you any way we can. Anything you need, no matter how small, please send me an email, send Danielle an email, and we will help you with it. There is no task too small to help our community right now. So I'm very proud of everybody. Thank you very much for your support and your engagement today.
All right. Thank you all. And anyone watching, please remember that you will get a link to this recording if you watch the program, or if you talk to anyone who wasn't able to watch it or register, it will be on our events page online within 24 hours. It'll also be in our e-newsletter, so hopefully you're receiving that. If not, you can subscribe now at greatersacramento.com, a fantastic URL we are finally able to secure recently. Thank you all. Have a great afternoon. Stay healthy.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.